Hello?
Yep.
Hi, Wes.
Yes. Is I.
How you doing? Good morning.
I'm great. How are you?
I'm all right.
Well, it's actually afternoon here.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is another episode of Suburban Rebels with Wes Beech of the Plasmatics. Well, where'd you grow up, and how'd you get into punk rock?
Well, I grew up on Long Island in a little upper middle class suburb of New York called Malvern. Just a real small town, about 10,000 people. And I was drawn to punk rock. Actually, I got into glam music pretty heavily in the early 70s and was a big fan of David Bowie, Mott the Hoople. And I started reading about this scene in Manhattan. It's Steve Jeebies and all the bands coming out of there. I used to buy Melody Maker magazine, and they did a whole article on the burgeoning punk rock scene. So interested in that, checking it out. So one night, me and a good friend of mine went down there. And, you know, being from Long Island, we went down there in our polyester shirts and our platform shoes and talk about being out of place. Well, we went to see Television and Talking Heads. And it was one of the first shows for Talking Heads at CBGB's. And we're standing outside the club. And since I had been reading a lot of the New York fanzines and things like Roxy magazine, I see pictures of Television, so I knew what they looked like. And out front was Tom Verlaine. And my friend, who doesn't know any better, goes up to him and says, "Hey, is this band any good?" And Tom Verlaine just turned around and gave him the dirtiest look I've ever seen and walked away from him, which I thought was pretty funny. So we went in there, and the place was packed, and the bands were incredible. And what was really cool was, you know, I remembered almost every song that both bands played, remembered the lyrics. They were all so catchy. Went back to my house after the show, and me and him, he played guitar. We just started writing music. And from then on, I was pretty much a regular at CBGB's.
Oh, okay. Then did you ever see Richard Hell around in those times?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I used to see Richard Hell when he worked at a bookstore called Cinemabilia, because I was also a big fan of cinema. And so I would see him in there, and I saw him play with the Heartbreakers, one of their early shows at CBGB's.
Okay.
And I even recorded it. I used to have this little portable cassette recorder I brought with me, and I recorded their set there. I also recorded the early Talking Heads show.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, they were good. Richard Hell was incredible. And then you know, I saw him a number of times with a solo band, and I saw him with you know, like I said, with the Heartbreakers, and he was just a riveting character.
Right. So you started playing guitar when? Like at an early age? How old were you then?
Well, my mother got me guitar lessons when I was 8 years old. And it was a little classical guitar, and the teacher was a friend of hers. So I'd go to her house once a week, take some lessons, and, you know, I was playing folk music, which I didn't really care for, and didn't stick with it. So I put that aside, and it wasn't until I got a little older, probably I was in high school, when I picked it up again and started getting serious about it. Because my sister used to play guitar, and she was a classical guitarist, and she played flamenco guitar. And she started to get really, really accomplished on it, but then as she got older and discovered voice, she put it down. So the guitar was sitting around the house in all these books, and I just picked it up, started playing it, started playing along to records, pretty much self-taught myself. And then I advanced to an electric guitar. I bought a Dan Armstrong guitar, one of those Lucite guitars. And I had a couple of amplifiers, and one day I come home from work, and I hear this noise in the basement. I hear somebody playing the guitar and talking, and I go down there, and it's a couple of guys I went to high school with, friends of my sister. They're down in my basement playing my stuff. I'm like, what the hell are you guys doing down here? But I befriended them, and we formed a band, and we started playing around, playing at CBGB's, Max's Kansas City.
Yeah. Well, the Max's Kansas City, was that one of your favorite places back then to play, or do you think CB's was better?
Well, I like CB's better. Max's Kansas City had a completely different vibe. But that in those days, that's where you played. You either played CBGB's or Max's Kansas City, or there was a couple other ancillary clubs around town, little places. Sometimes you get a gig there. And they liked us at CBGB's, but we can never get that, all-important weekend gig. And in fact, the first time we played CBGB's was on a Tuesday night. It was a showcase night, and the band from Dayton, Ohio was playing. First time they played in New York, and it was the Dead Boys.
Yeah.
And our drummer was going to school at Dayton, and he was familiar with them, and he kept telling us how great this band was, how good they were, and he was right. They were just incredible. They come out for their first song. They're playing Sonic Reducer, and Steve Vader's microphone is off. And the band goes through the whole song. He is visibly annoyed, just looking and staring into the crowd, looking for the sound guy. They finish the song. Charlie Martin, the sound man at CBGB's, comes up, fixes the mic, and then they go through the song again, play the whole song.
Oh, wow.
So that was really cool.
Did you hang out with Steve at all?
Later on, he was a fan of the Plasmatics, and our manager, Rod Swenson, actually took some early videos of the Dead Boys and also the Ramones and Blondie, and we used to use that as our opening. Instead of an opening band, would show that footage. So he was friends with our manager, and he would come to our shows, and I'd talk to him. And
yeah, cool.
Yeah, he was cool. I always liked him. I always liked the solo stuff, and it was a sad day for me when he passed away.
Yeah. What was you think the Dead Boys was the first band maybe that influenced you?
Oh, no. Like I said, the early glam rock bands influenced me, but the band that really did it for me and opened up my eyes is when I went to see Mott the Hoople at the Felt Forum in New York. And I was a big Mott the Hoople fan. Actually, my sister turned me on to Mott the Hoople. She got me their All the Young Dudes album for Christmas one year. Okay. And so we got tickets to that show, but the band that opened for them was the New York Dolls, and they just completely blew me away.
Yeah.
I had read a little bit about them in Rolling Stone, and the quote that stood out to me was, we want to look 16 and bored shitless.
Oh,
and they were just incredible. And Johnny Thunders was riveting. And he's always been like my biggest influence on guitar, one of my biggest inspirations.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And yeah, none of them are left now.
No, it's kind of sad.
Yeah. How did you meet Wendy O. Williams and join the Plasmatics?
Well, a funny story there. The band I was in before Plasmatics and that played CBGB's and Max's was a band called The Accidents. And we rehearsed a number of rehearsal studios in Lower Manhattan. And one night we're rehearsing, we get done, we're coming out. And across the hall at another studio, I see one of my classmates I knew from high school comes out, and he asked me, he says, hey, my aunt's boyfriend is playing a showcase at CBGB's, and they need some people in the audience. You want to go down and check them out? Mm-hmm. And, since I like going to CBGB's, I said, sure, I'll go down and check them out. And we get down there, and the band on stage is the Plasmatics. Mm. And Wendy was absolutely riveting. I thought she was incredible. The band I really didn't care for too much. I thought they were kind of sloppy and all over the place. Mm-hmm. They had a Japanese bass player who counted off the songs, and I thought he was the leader of the band. But like I said, I thought she was absolutely riveting. Just the way she commanded the stage was so powerful, and her voice was powerful and loud. Mm-hmm. So, a few weeks later, my band was breaking up. And I saw an ad in the Village Voice looking for the world's fastest rhythm guitar player. Didn't say the name of the band or anything, but I answered the ad. Talked to him for a while. Turned out it was Richie Stotts, a lead guitarist in the band. Mm-hmm. And come to find out it was the Plasmatics. So I went down to audition, and they just had a feature article in Q Magazine. And Q Magazine later became New York Magazine. But they had a big article on Wendy, so the place was packed with aspiring auditionees to try out for the band. So I sat there, waited my turn. Was in this basement of a warehouse loft space in Lower Manhattan. I was low ceiling, and the pipes were all sweaty, and it was dark and dank, and just looked like something out of a Fellini movie.
Yeah.
So as I waited to audition, I could hear them playing this song over and over again. Now, they had just released an EP, Butcher Baby EP, with 3 songs on it, and I picked that up before the audition, learned all the songs on that, and while I was waiting to audition, I learned that song. So when my turn came, they invited me in, and they said, here, I want to show you this song. I guess they wanted to see how fast, the guitarists can learn a song and play along with them. And I said, well, I've been sitting outside in the lobby waiting for the last half hour. I know the song. Let's play it. So we ran through it, and they were duly impressed that, I picked it up so quick. And as we were talking, I said, well, you want to play some of the songs from your EP? I know those songs too. And they were surprised. They're like, really? And I said, yeah. So at the audition, Wendy wasn't there. It was just the band and the manager, Rod Swenson.
Oh, okay.
And I played the songs, played them really good. They were impressed. And at the end, Rod asked me if I wanted to come back for another audition, and I said sure. Mm-hmm. So a week went by, and I went back to play with them again, and it was between me, kind of this new wavy guy, and a girl. I auditioned again, and then once again he says, well, we really like you. We'd like you to be in the band, but you seem to have a little bit of a weight problem. So can you think you can lose some weight? We're looking for somebody, lean and mean. And
Wow.
I said, well, yeah, of course I can lose some weight. So I went on a crash diet and lost like 30 pounds in 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And then I was in the band.
Wow. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I just went on this really serious crash diet. All I drank was black coffee. I'd have a hollowed out green pepper with cottage cheese in it. And then I would have a dessert, like a cupcake or something, just so I wouldn't go crazy. And that was what I ate for 3 weeks. I lost all that weight.
Oh, so they wanted someone skinny for the band just for the look.
Right, for the look. I mean, because the band was visual. It was really not a band. It was really Rod Swenson's conceptual art piece. That's what the Plasmatics was.
Wow.
And a vehicle for Wendy. And it was his vision, his lyrics. And we were the musicians who kind of put his vision to work. Yeah.
And that was 1977?
That was 79, end of 79.
Oh, okay. 79. What about when you first met Wendy? How did that go?
Well, that was kind of interesting. The rehearsal space, Rod had built a stage and a little rehearsal room in their loft. They lived on the 5th floor of this building, and he built a rehearsal space in there. So the day I was going to play for the first time, I show up early. I always was punctual and preferred to be early rather than late. And I go into the loft, and it's a big room, old style loft, and in the middle of the room is a bathtub, and in the bathtub is Wendy. And she looks up at me and she goes, "Oh, you must be Wes, the new guitar player. I'm Wendy. Nice to meet you." And I just looked at her, and I'm thinking like, wow, this is going to be something. and I was right. I mean, that was really, really quite the introduction to her.
Yeah. Was she wearing clothes?
No, of course not. She was in the bathtub. She was completely nude. And she was comfortable in her own skin. I mean, I've never met anybody quite like her before. I mean, she was, she would do things, pose naked all the time, come on stage naked or just barely covered in whipped cream.
Yeah. What were early practices like for you guys?
Well, they were pretty intense. A typical rehearsal would go in, would work on some new material because we were constantly writing, constantly working on songs. And then Wendy would come in and would go through the stage set as if it was an actual show. So it would be the same intensity, same pacing as a show, and would go through it start to finish. Then would be done, and it was so intense, we'd all be panting for trying to catch our breath and sweaty. And Wendy would turn around, look at us, and she goes, "Oh, that was great. Let's do it again." And of course, we'd have to do it because you couldn't say no to Wendy.
Yeah.
And that was, that was a typical rehearsals.
Yeah. Did you get along pretty good with Richie Stocks?
Oh yeah, Richie was great. He was like a brother to me. I learned quite a bit from him. His style, he came from like a different place than I did. He was more from like a blues-based background, and I was more just for the rock. I never really got into the blues.
Oh, yeah.
And he had this kind of very loose, freewheeling guitar style. It was unlike anybody else's out there, which is one of the reasons why they wanted to add another guitar player, to kind of fill up the sound and, put something back there when he's off on his solo tangents and going crazy. So
Right.
they wanted a foundation to keep the music solid.
Yeah, okay. And you guys were always in sync with each other.
Oh yeah. I mean, we practiced so much that it was almost the whole set was almost like second nature, and it had to be like that because there was a lot of stuff going on. Wendy would be smashing stuff and breaking TVs, chainsawing guitars, shooting shotguns, and you had to know what was going on and what was happening.
Right. It sounds distracting.
Right. And, I don't think people realize how much time and effort we put into the band. I mean, our rehearsal schedule was very rigorous. We would rehearse every other day from 6 o'clock to 10 at night. Had to stop at 10 because, they're in the loft and there's other people in the loft.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would rehearse all day Saturday and all day Sunday. And this went on, as long as I was in the band.
Wow.
And really didn't change. I mean, occasionally we would be getting ready to do a record and do some recording, and we would rehearse every day.
Oh yeah.
But that was typically the day. I mean, I remember one time we were rehearsing. We were done with rehearsal, and Rod comes in the room. He says, "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow." And it's just complete silence. Everybody's looking at each other. And our drummer, Stu Deutsch, who happens to be Jewish, looks up at Rod. He goes, "Rod, it's Christmas."
Oh.
Rod wasn't even thinking about it.
Oh wow. Did you have a day job while you were doing that, or?
I did. When I first joined the band, I had a job working for the County Board of Elections, and I would do that, and then I'd leave from there and go to rehearsals.
Oh, that's cool. And what were like the early shows like? They got pretty wild, I bet.
The early shows were real wild. I mean, we were one of the first acts to have a line up around the block to get in. I mean, word of mouth spread quick about Wendy, and everybody wanted to see her. And I remember the first show I did at CBGB's, I had to literally fight my way to get to the dressing room. People didn't think I was in the band and were trying to, hold their spot in the crowd. So I had to fight through and say, "Hey, let me through. I'm in the band.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And it was a far cry from, the Tuesday night shows I used to do at CBGB's where you'd look out and there'd just be a smattering of people. And
Right.
It was literally wall to wall as far back as you could see.
Wow. Did Sid Vicious or the Ramones come to your shows, or Johnny Thunders?
I don't know if any of those did. I know the Ramones did. They were big fans of the band, and I would see them from time to time. I don't recall ever seeing Johnny Thunders or Sid Vicious.
And you said Stiv, right? The Dead Boys.
Stiv from the Dead Boys, and some of the other CBGB's musicians. They would come to the shows.
Okay. Do you remember John Spacely, Gringo?
Oh yeah. I met him a few times. He was a fan of the band too. He was a character.
Yeah. Did Wendy write all the songs, or?
No, the band wrote the songs, and Rod Swenson wrote the lyrics.
Oh, okay.
Wendy, she would offer some insights and maybe change a word here or there, but no, she didn't do any of the writing.
Okay. Do you remember the first show that you guys started destroying things on stage?
Well, that was the first show from the first time I showed up. She did the chainsaw and smashed what happened. A roadie would come out with this black box with 3 transistor radios glued to it, and they'd put a microphone up to him, and he'd be tuning the radios, and then Wendy would come out on stage, push him aside, and then smash the radios with a sledgehammer.
Oh, cool.
And then for the end, they'd bring out the sand for the guitar, put the guitar on it, and then she'd chainsaw the guitar in half. And that was our show for quite a while. And then she graduated to smashing the TVs on stage instead of the radios.
Yeah.
So it was always a lot of mayhem.
Yeah. Did so the chainsaw, I heard, because she loved Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies. Is that why she started using them, or?
Yeah, that was one of her favorite movies. In fact, she once gave me a videotape of that movie.
Oh, okay.
And I had actually seen it in the theaters. That was one of my favorite movies. But she loved the sound of the chainsaw too.
Yeah, I mean, I love it too. Oh, one of my favorites too. I know Von Elmo used to take out the chainsaw at CBGB's.
Right. In fact, we opened for him at Max's once, and he came running out with the chainsaw, which was pretty wild.
Yeah, I know Von Elmo. I interviewed him.
Oh, did you? Yeah. I liked him actually.
No, but last time I was in, because I grew up in New Jersey. Last time I was back home, he tried getting me to come to Brooklyn to meet him at a hotel and do drugs.
That sounds like him. Where in New Jersey did you go?
Clifton, North Jersey by Patterson.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, how many shows got shut down by the cops?
None really got shut down. She got arrested in Milwaukee, and she also got arrested in Cleveland. They didn't shut the shows down. Usually, in New York, the police were very friendly to us. They would come to the shows and make sure things were okay. And in fact, at the Palladium show we did, Richie smashed his head with the guitar, was bleeding profusely, and the police came to take him to the hospital. And they were very, very nice and friendly, and they were always, always thought the police were nice. And until that incident in Milwaukee, we never had any problems.
Well, okay. Did they arrest you too, or
no? No. This all happened outside the club in the alley behind it, and I was staying in the dressing room, and I really didn't know anything was going on until after the fact.
Oh, okay. And how was playing the Tom Snyder show? Is that your first mainstream success, or?
Yeah, that was really, really something. That was a interesting experience because they weren't really set up to do the kind of band that we were. We were loud, marshals on stage. We blew up a car on his show once, and she did the chainsaw on there. And the way it was set up was they had a stage, and then right in front of the stage, Tom Snyder sat in his chair, and then the audience was actually behind Tom Snyder. So it was a little disconcerting to be playing and then see Tom Snyder sitting right in front of you in his, easy chair while we're going crazy and wild, and Wendy's running back and forth, and Richie's running into the crowd.
Yeah.
It was quite an experience.
Yeah.
In fact, one show, when we blew up the car, the smoke from the car went upstairs into the NBC studio where Tom Brokaw was doing the news. Firemen went up there.
Wow. That's funny. What about the Gil Fisher show? Did you meet John Candy?
Yes, that was a lot of fun. That was up in Edmonton, Canada, where they filmed that, and we met him and a number of cast members from SCTV. And John was funny. He was always on, always cracking jokes, and just really fun to be around. And it was another really cool experience.
Oh, awesome! That's cool. I know it's a hard question, but what do you think the craziest show was, or craziest city to play?
Craziest, that's really hard to say. I think they were all crazy, but the CBGB's crowds, I think, were really, really some of the best.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the craziest shows we did, show at Perkins Palace in Los Angeles. We played a 4-night stretch there. On the fourth night, the promoter brought his car in for Wendy to blow up. So that was pretty wild. And we blew up a car there every night. In fact, on that tour, we blew up a car in every city.
Oh my God, that's great.
And that was crazy. I mean, we had a pyro guy, and it was pretty controlled mayhem. And to this day, it's surprising that nobody got hurt or injured by any of it. But he would have to go ahead every show and check out the club and see how to get the car in there. And some clubs he actually had to have the car dismantled and reassembled inside because the doors were too small to bring it in.
Oh wow. Okay. Did you guys ever smash anything that wasn't on the roster?
Well, there were some different things we did. One show we did out on Long Island, Wendy smashed a washing machine, and all the women in the audience cheered when she did that. And then at CBGB's, we used to do this thing we called the chicken jag. And what we would do is the night before the show, we would go to a slaughterhouse and procure about half a dozen chickens. And we had these wooden crates made, had two of them attached to the ceiling at CBGB's. And at the right moment, Wendy would aim the shotgun at those cages, and one of the road crew members would open up a trap door, and his chickens would fall out, start running around the stage frantically, and the crew guys would come out and corral the chickens, and it was quite a scene to see, I think.
Wow, that's pretty wild.
And we did that for a while, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, these chickens were just going to be killed anyway, so we kind of gave them a little chance to be in the spotlight for a night, spare their lives a little longer.
Back then, PETA, I guess, wasn't really a thing.
Well, it was getting started. In fact, we did a show in Texas, and one of the reporters in Texas reported that Wendy killed chickens on stage. It was a big thing, his editorial in the newspaper. They were picketing the show.
Wow.
So after that, we didn't do it anymore. But Wendy had dreams of getting some pigs and releasing pigs on stage. But unfortunately, we never did that, because I think that would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I know Wendy, I think she was involved with you guys' manager. Did she get involved with any of the band members?
No. Her and Rod were a couple for as long as the band was around.
Oh, okay. So what was being in a band with Wendy like? Was she like a control freak or?
Oh no, just the opposite. She was a real sweetheart. She was like an older sister to us. She would come in. She would make sure that on our band rider we would have everything that we were supposed to have. She would make sure that we ate right and we took care of ourselves. I mean, she was great, and she pushed us. She really pushed us, and to be the best we can. She used to jog 5 or 6 miles a day every day with a Sony Walkman cassette player strapped to her head, practicing the songs, working on new songs, and working on the set, singing along. I mean, she was like a consummate professional. And I don't know if a lot of people realize that, or how much time and effort we put into the band.
Right.
Because they think, here's just another punk rock band, but there was a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yeah, I bet.
And Wendy, like I say, Wendy was the driving force. I mean, she was always doing interviews, and doing photo shoots, and promoting the band. And...
Yeah. Wasn't she in Playboy or something? I forget.
Yeah, she did a spread in Playboy where she jumped out of an airplane naked.
Right, that's right. I read that. Yeah.
And she wrestled an alligator. I mean, she was totally fearless. She wasn't afraid to try anything.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's great. Did you have any after or pre-show rituals that you did?
Not really. I mean, I was always a complete nervous wreck before I went on stage, and once I hit that first guitar chord, then everything was calm and went smooth. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'd have maybe a beer before I go on, just to, calm down a little, try and relax, and that was about it. Then after the show, we were always so wound up. We would always go out. We were always looking for a party, trying to unwind.
Yeah. What was the biggest crowd you think you ever played to? How many people?
Probably when we did the promotion, Pier 62, where Wendy drove a Cadillac into the stage, into the East River. There was about 20,000 people there.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then, so our TV appearances, when we played on Fridays, there was probably millions watching that show. So that was probably our biggest exposure.
Yeah.
And we were also on Solid Gold, which at the time was a real mainstream rock show.
Oh, okay.
And, we were introduced by Andy Gibb, Bee Gees' younger brother, and also Marilyn McCoo from the Fifth Dimension, which talk about culture shock.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Did the crowd ever try to get on stage and grope Wendy or fight her?
Oh, many times, and Wendy wouldn't stand for it. I mean, she took their sledgehammer to one guy once and hit him. Broke his nose. I mean, she would kick him off the screen. Somebody, got out of line.
Yeah.
She wouldn't stand for any of that.
Yeah. There was probably a lot of fights.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There were lots of fights. Yeah.
What about the songs Test Tube Babies and Won't You? Do you know what those songs were about? I mean, were they specific to anything or just general?
I think they were just general. I mean, Test Tube Babies was about, DNA and cloning. It was kind of early song about that. Want You was actually a really good punk rock song, I think.
Yeah.
And
that whole album's incredible.
That was Johnny Ramone's favorite album.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he would always say that was his favorite album.
Oh, that's cool. What about your favorite cities to play?
Well, of course, New York, Los Angeles was always a great town to play. Detroit and Cleveland were fabulous towns. I mean, a lot of real punk rock history in both those cities. And Texas, we always had really good crowds in Texas. I mean, pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
The buzz for the band was such that people would come from miles around to check it out.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
Plasmatics show was an event.
Yeah. And did you guys make pretty good money off the records and the popularity of the band, or?
Well, we made our money mostly from touring. We didn't sell a lot of records because they were too controversial. Radio wouldn't play them. MTV relegated our videos to the 4 o'clock in the morning slot, so they weren't seen by a lot of people.
Right.
So we pretty much made our money by touring. And when I first joined the band, we didn't make any money for quite a while. We took all the money we made and put it back into the shows because we had a fairly high overhead to play. Mm-hmm. We had the TVs to buy, the guitars to buy that you chainsawed. The crew got paid, but the band didn't. And we didn't really start making money till we got a record deal. And then we were on salary, and we made a good salary. We were making more money than most of the other bands at the time, like the Ramones, bands like that. But unfortunately, we never got the airplay or record sales that we should have. Records just never got promoted or pushed.
Right. Yeah. Also, did you ever play a show where you thought, wow, we went too far, like that was too crazy, too much?
No, it was never too far. Wendy always used to like to say that we like to draw a line in the sand and then we step over that line. And that's what we always did. We always tried to push the envelope. What people were expecting, we'd try and give them more. So, no, I don't think even our wildest shows, even when she drove the Cadillac into the East River and the stage blew up, and I don't think that was too much.
Yeah. People probably were freaking out, though, huh?
And nothing like that today. I don't think you'll ever see another singer like Wendy. There've been, of course, some who've tried, but could never do it. And I don't think there'd be a band that could do the kind of things we were doing.
Yeah, no. Punk rock's definitely not like it was. That's for sure.
Oh no, it's I think it's just gotten too commercialized. You have the hot topic punks now,
Yeah.
and I see the kids, the CBGB's T-shirts and things, and they have no idea what CBGB's is.
Right. Right.
It's just it's just like a brand.
Yeah. What guitars do you like?
Well, I played Kramer guitars. We had a Kramer endorsement early on. I had Guild guitars I played. Currently, I kind of been getting into some Les Pauls, which I never played in the Plasmatics. When I was in the Plasmatics, I always tried to play the most outrageous guitars I could find.
Yeah, yeah.
On the cover of the New Hope for the Wretched album, I have this custom, it's called a Sardonyx guitar that looks kind of like a spaceship from Star Trek or something.
Yeah. And you played with the Executioner hood on, right? I saw.
Yeah, for Butcher Baby.
Yeah.
Put on the hood. Mm-hmm.
That's probably pretty hard to see through.
Oh yeah, you couldn't really see through it, so
yeah.
Just tried to do the best I could.
Right. Did the band ever fight with each other? Why did the Plasmatics end?
No, there's never any fights. I mean, being in the band is like being married to 4 other people. So, there's always little conflicts here and there, but nothing serious. And the band just pretty much ran its course, and Rod started to get into some different things, some educational things, and he started teaching at the University of Connecticut, and it just kind of never really officially ended. We just never got back together.
Okay.
And our last tour was for Wendy's solo album called Deafest and Baddest, which was kind of the first, I think, rap metal album. And we did that tour, and when the tour was over, we said, okay, well, we'll get back and work on some new material, and then that just never happened. So it just kind of faded away, and then Rod and Wendy moved to Connecticut, and we still talked. I would go up and see him from time to time, and we'd talk music and talk about possibilities of doing something else. But like I said, Rod got involved with some other things and was teaching at the University of Connecticut. And again, we weren't making the kind of money that we should have made, and weren't getting the promotion we should have gotten. And even though our later albums got a lot of positive press and response, it just didn't generate into sales. And without the money coming in, it was hard to do anything. To restart the whole thing, it's almost like hitting your head against a brick wall. And it's such, the band has a certain value and certain show we like to do, and without that financial backing, it's kind of hard to do that. So,
right.
It was kind of sad. I was sorry to see it kind of end, and always thought maybe we'd get back together. And I think today more than ever, the world can use some Wendy O. Williams and the Plasmatics.
Oh yeah, for sure. And what does punk rock mean to you?
Well, punk rock was always an attitude. I thought it was freedom of expression, freedom to be who you are, be an individual, stand up against authority, and that was my take on it. And I know that was Wendy's take on it. We were an anti-authority band, and I always hated to be told what to do, and still hate it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Are you in a band now?
No, I'm doing some solo recordings, and I'm actually working with a punk rock guy named Bloody F. Mess. I've got a couple original songs, and we're also going to do 4 Plasmatics songs. It's going to come out as like a Plasmatics tribute EP.
Oh, cool.
So that's pretty exciting, and I've done some other recording with him in the past.
Okay, yeah.
And he's been around for a while.
All right, yeah, I heard of him. And if you could say anything to Wendy right now, what would it be?
Well, it'd be, I miss you, and I wish you were here. And, I know if she was still with us, she'd be making some great music, and she'd still be fighting the status quo, and she'd be up in arms against what's going on in the country today.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Well, you have any last words, Wes?
Well, I'd like to tell anybody if they'd like, visit Plasmatics.com where the Plasmatics back catalog is available on CD. We also have some albums and T-shirts, some posters. And if any of your listeners want to order anything, I'd be more than happy to autograph anything that's ordered. Just put it in the comment section.
All right. Great. Well, thank you, Wes, for your time, and you have a great Sunday.
All right. Thank you, Pete. And always remember to play it loud and keep it hard and heavy.
All right. Bye.